I still remember the night we ran away. The sound of rain pounding on the roof mixed with the echo of my own heartbeat as I clutched my daughter, Lily, to my chest. She was only 4, her small arms wrapped around my neck as if she knew our lives depended on it. I didn't take much, just a backpack, a few clothes, and the courage I didn't know I had left. The bruises on my arms were fading, but the ones on my heart were still raw. I drove through the night until the city lights disappeared in the rearview mirror. For the first time in years, I felt air in my lungs that didn't hurt to breathe. I told myself this was a new beginning, a life where fear didn't sleep in the same bed as me. I found a small town where no one knew my name, where Lily could start preschool and I could work at the local cafe. Every morning I'd braid her hair and watch her smile, so innocent, so free. I promised myself I'd never let the past touch her, but sometimes, when the wind blew hard against the windows, I could still hear his Mark's voice mocking me in the dark corners of my mind. "You'll never escape me," he once said. I told myself he was wrong. I told myself he was gone. Months passed, and slowly we began to feel safe. Lily started drawing flowers, animals, the sun with too many rays, and her laughter filled the apartment like music I'd never heard before. I thought the worst was behind us. I thought the nightmares had finally stopped. But then, one afternoon, she brought me a drawing that made my blood run cold. A man's face-sharp jawline, dark eyes, the same crooked smile I'd seen in my nightmares. "Who's that, sweetheart?" I asked, my voice trembling. She looked up, her tiny hand smudged with crayon, and said, "That's the man who stands outside my window at night." My heart stopped. I wanted to believe it was just a child's imagination, but something deep inside me, the part that had once learned to recognize danger before it came, knew this was more than that. It felt like the past had found us again. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the floorboards, every hum of the refrigerator sounded like footsteps creeping closer. I sat by Lily's bed, watching her tiny chest rise and fall as she slept clutching her stuffed rabbit. I wanted to believe she was just dreaming, that her drawing meant nothing. But the way she'd drawn those eyes, they were too real, too knowing. The next morning, I tried to act normal. I made pancakes, smiled, and pretended everything was fine. But my hands shook as I poured the syrup. "Did he come back last night?" I asked casually, praying she'd laugh and say no. She frowned, thinking, then said, "He didn't come to the window, Mommy. He was at the playground." My blood turned to ice. "What do you mean, honey?" I whispered. "He was sitting on the bench," she said, tilting her head like she was remembering a dream. He smiled at me, but he didn't talk. I dropped the spatula. The sound startled her, and I quickly gathered her into my arms, hiding the fear in my voice. "If you ever see him again, don't go near him, okay? Promise me." She nodded, confused but obedient. After I dropped her at preschool, I sat in my car for 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe it was just a stranger who looked similar. Mark couldn't have found us. He didn't even know what state we were in. I'd changed my name, switched my phone, deleted every trace of who I used to be. And yet, that night when I looked out the window, I could swear I saw a shadow near the trees across the street, a tall figure just standing there, unmoving. I closed the curtains, heart pounding, telling myself it was nothing. But when I checked the locks, I noticed something strange. The back door latch was slightly open, like someone had tried to force it. That's when I knew this wasn't my imagination. Someone had been there. The next morning I called the police, but without proof. All they could do was patrol the area. "Probably just a coincidence," the officer said kindly. But I could see it in his eyes. She didn't believe me. And when I came home, Lily was sitting at the table, drawing again. Another face. The same man. This time, she added red marks under his eyes like tears. I stared at that drawing for a long time, trying to steady my breathing. The red marks looked like smeared blood, but Lily had colored them carefully, as if she'd seen them exactly that way. "Why did you draw those, sweetheart?" I asked softly, kneeling beside her. She didn't look up. Her crayon kept moving across the paper. "Because he's sad," she said simply. "He told me he misses us." My stomach twisted. "He talked to you?" She nodded, still coloring. "He said he used to live with us before we moved here." I felt my throat close. That was the confirmation I didn't want. Somehow, in some sick, impossible way, Mark had found us. or someone pretending to be him. I gathered the papers, shoved them into a drawer, and told Lily to go play. As soon as she left the room, I broke down. The tears came hard and fast, years of fear and pain boiling over again. I had rebuilt our lives from ashes, started over with nothing but my will to protect her, and now it was all crumbling. That evening I went to the cafe for my shift, but I couldn't focus. Every man who walked in made my pulse quicken. I kept glancing at the door, half expecting to see that crooked smile appear in the crowd. My boss, Janet, noticed. "You okay, hun?" she asked. I forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." But inside I was screaming. When I got home, Lily was asleep on the couch, clutching another drawing. I almost didn't want to look, but curiosity won. This one showed our house. There was Lily and me inside, and outside, under the window, stood the same man. But this time she'd drawn something new. A red car parked on the street. I froze. No one in our neighborhood owned a red car. I walked to the window and peered through the blinds. My heart stopped. Across the street, half hidden under the trees, was a red sedan I had never seen before. It sat there, engine off, windows dark. My first instinct was to grab Lily and run, but where would we go? I needed proof before anyone would believe me. So I took out my phone, aimed it through the curtain, and snapped a picture. The flash went off by accident, and that's when the car's headlights turned on. The headlights cut through the darkness like a blade, blinding me for a second. My body froze, and all I could hear was the thundering of my own heartbeat. I ducked down instantly, yanking the curtain shut and crawling backward until my back hit the wall. I waited for the sound of a car door opening, for footsteps on the gravel, but nothing came. Just silence. I sat there, clutching my phone, the light from the screen flickering over my trembling hands. I zoomed in on the photo I had taken. The image was blurry, but I could make out a shape in the driver's seat, a silhouette leaning forward, watching the house. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't wake Lily. She needed to feel safe, even if I didn't. I turned off all the lights and sat near her until sunrise, every sound outside making me flinch. When the first light hit the curtains, I finally dared to look again. The car was gone. The street was empty, peaceful, almost mocking in its quiet. I called the police again, this time showing them the photo. The officer squinted at it and sighed. "Could be anyone," he said. "You sure it's not a neighbor?" I wanted to shake him, to make him understand. "I know who he is," I said quietly. "It's my ex-husband. He used to hurt me." That made him pause. He promised to send a patrol car around that night, but I could tell he didn't think it was serious. After he left, I called Janet and told her I needed a few days off. She didn't ask questions, just told me to take care of myself. That evening, I started packing just in case. Clothes, Lily's drawings, my documents, the emergency cash I'd hidden in the flower jar. I thought about leaving that night, disappearing again. But as I folded one of Lily's sweaters, I heard something outside, a faint scraping noise near the window. I froze, then crept closer, peeking through a gap in the curtain. Someone was standing there, a man in a dark hoodie, face half covered, but I could see the faint outline of a crooked smile. My hands went numb. I grabbed Lily from her bed, whispering for her to stay quiet. We hid in the bathroom. My hand clamped over her mouth as tears slid down my face. The doorknob rattled. Then, slowly, the front door creaked open. The sound of the door opening was soft, almost careful, like whoever was out there didn't want to wake use or wanted us to know he was coming on his terms. I held Lily tighter, her little body trembling against mine as I tried to keep my breathing silent. The floorboards creaked in the living room. One step, then another. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears, feel the sweat trickle down my neck. I wanted to call the police, but my phone was on the nightstand in the other room. I had no choice but to wait. The footsteps stopped near the bathroom door. For a moment, there was only silence, heavy and suffocating. Then, a faint whisper slipped through the crack beneath the door. "You can't hide forever, Anna." My blood ran cold. That voice, it was his. Mark's voice. The same calm, mocking tone that used to fill me with dread. I pressed my hand over Lily's mouth tighter as she whimpered softly. I wanted to scream, to fight, but terror pinned me in place. Then suddenly there was a loud banging on the front door, followed by a man shouting, "Police! Open up!" The footsteps retreated quickly, and I heard the sound of the back window shattering. I flung the bathroom door open, grabbed Lily, and ran toward the noise. 2 officers rushed in, flashlights sweeping the room. "Ma'am, are you okay?" one of them shouted. I couldn't speak. I just pointed toward the back. They ran outside, guns drawn, but it was too late. The night had swallowed him. Later, they told me they found footprints in the mud near the fenceman's boots, size 11 and a cigarette butt with fresh ash. He'd been there, watching, waiting. They urged me to stay with a friend or at a shelter for the night. I packed what little I could and drove with Lily to a motel 3 towns over. She fell asleep in my arms, exhausted from crying, and I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the window, half expecting to see his face pressed against the glass. I thought I'd escaped him once, but now I realized something much worse. He didn't just want to find me. He wanted to make me believe I would never be free. The motel room smelled like old carpet and cigarette smoke, but it was a roof over our heads, and for now that was enough. I pushed a chair against the door and left the bathroom light on because I couldn't stand the dark anymore. Every time a car passed outside, its headlights cut through the blinds and I'd jump, convinced it was him. Lily slept soundly beside me, her small hand clutching mine. I should have felt safe, but deep down, I knew running again wouldn't solve anything. He had found us once. He could do it again. The next morning, I went to the front desk and asked if anyone had been asking about us. The clerk, an older woman with kind eyes, shook her head but gave me a worried look. "You okay, dear?" she asked. I lied, saying we were fine, just passing through. I bought a cheap phone at a nearby store and called Janet to explain everything. She was furious not at me, but at the situation. "You should have told me sooner," she said. "Come stay with me. My husband's a retired cop. You'll be safe here." For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of relief. We packed up and drove straight to her house, a small place on the edge of town with a big fenced yard and security cameras on every corner. When we arrived, her husband, Tom, greeted us with a firm handshake. "Nobody's gonna hurt you here," he said. That night, I finally slept deep, dreamless, peaceful. But the next morning, as I made breakfast, Lily came running into the kitchen, clutching another drawing. My stomach dropped before I even saw it. This one showed a house surrounded by trees, a tall man standing at the gate. She had drawn it perfectly Janet's house. "Where did you see this, honey?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Outside," she said. He was waving at me. I rushed to the window, heart pounding. But there was no one there, only the faint movement of leaves in the wind. Tom checked the cameras immediately, rewinding the footage. And then he froze. On the screen, barely visible in the corner of the yard, was a man in a dark hoodie. He looked straight at the camera, smiled faintly, and walked away. Tom looked at me, his face pale. "Whoever he is," he said quietly, "he knows exactly where you are." My knees almost gave out when I saw that image on the screen. It wasn't a glitch or a shadow, it was him, standing just beyond the fence, close enough to see the curtains of the guest room where Lily slept. Tom immediately called the local police, reporting a possible stalker, while Janet pulled me into a hug, whispering that everything would be all right. But I could see the worry in her eyes. That night, Tom stayed awake on the porch with his old service pistol, while I lay beside Lily, pretending to sleep. Every sound outside made me flinch. The rustling of branches, the distant bark of a dog, the creak of the fence in the wind. Around midnight, I finally drifted into a light, uneasy sleep. Then I woke up to a faint tapping sound, like fingernails against glass. My heart stopped. I turned my head slowly toward the window, and there through the faint glow of the moonlight, I saw him. Mark. His face was pale, his eyes hollow, but his smile was the same cruel curve I remembered. He pressed his hand against the glass, and I could almost hear his voice in my head, whispering, "I told you. You can't hide." I froze, terrified to move, terrified to blink. Then Tom's voice boomed from the porch. "Hey, step away from the house." The next few seconds blurred together, shouts, the sound of running feet, a gun being cocked, then silence. I held Lily close, too scared to breathe. Tom came back inside minutes later, panting, his hands shaking. "He's gone," he said. "Disappeared into the woods." But I swear I saw his face. He looked wrong, like he hadn't slept in weeks. The police came again, but by the time they searched the area, there was no trace of him. No footprints, no cigarette butts, nothing. It was like he'd vanished into thin air. I felt trapped between fear and disbelief. How could he keep finding me? Had he been following us all along? The officers promised to keep watch that night, but I knew better. Mark wasn't just hunting me, he was playing with me, testing how far he could go before I broke. As I watched the police cars drive away, a cold realization crept through me. He wasn't just coming for me anymore. He wanted Lily too. The next morning, I decided I couldn't live like that anymore. Fear had ruled my life for too long, and now it was seeping into Lily's. She was quieter than usual, staring out the window as if she expected to see him standing there. "Mommy," she whispered, "why does the man keep smiling?" My chest tightened, but I forced a smile. "He won't be around much longer, sweetheart. Mommy's going to fix this." I didn't know how, but I had to make her believe it. After breakfast, Tom suggested we visit the police station in person. He thought maybe, with my past reports and the new footage, they'd take things seriously. We drove there together, and I showed them every piece of evidence, the drawings, the photos, the video clip. The officer's expression changed as he scrolled through the footage, then frowned deeply. "Ma'am," he said, "are you sure this is your ex-husband?" I hesitated. "Yes, I'd recognize him anywhere." The officer exchanged a look with Tom before saying, "The man in this video doesn't match your ex's description. According to the records, Mark Taylor was found dead 2 years ago. Car crash. The body was identified." My breath caught in my throat. "That's impossible," I whispered. "He called my name. He said he missed us." The officer shook his head. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but whoever you're seeing, it's not him." My world spun. If Mark was dead, then who was haunting us? Tom drove us home in silence, his jaw tight. "Maybe someone else knew about him," he said finally. "Someone trying to scare you." But deep down, I knew what I saw. That voice, that smile, it wasn't just a resemblance. It was him. That night, I tried to convince myself it was all a cruel prank, but the air in the house felt heavy, almost alive. I could hear faint whispers through the walls, too soft to understand. Lily began crying in her sleep, muttering, "He's calling me. Mommy. He says he wants to come inside." I rushed to her, shaking her awake, but her eyes looked distant, unfocused, as if she was somewhere else entirely. And then, as the wind howled outside, the lights flickered. From the hallway came the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, familiar. I turned toward the noise, my whole body trembling, and whispered to myself, "But he's dead." I stood frozen at the edge of the hallway, staring into the dim light flickering above. The sound of footsteps grew louder, closer, deliberate as if he wanted me to know he was there. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the flashlight, but I forced myself to step forward. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice trembling. No answer, just the creak of the wooden floorboards. I took another step, the beam of light catching the edge of something on the ground, muddy footprints, leading straight from the back door toward Lily's room. My stomach dropped. I ran down the hallway, heart pounding, flinging open her door. She was sitting upright in bed, eyes wide open but blank, staring at the window. "Lily," I cried, rushing to her. Her little hand slowly lifted and pointed. "He's right there," she whispered. I turned my head, and for one horrifying moment, I saw him, Mark, standing outside the glass, his face pale, eyes sunken, that same terrible smile stretched too wide. But something was wrong. His skin looked gray, his clothes torn, as if he'd clawed his way out of a grave. I stumbled backward, clutching Lily to my chest. "You're dead," I whispered. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Then the lights went out, plunging us into darkness. I could hear his voice now, soft and chilling, echoing through the room. "You took her from me, Anna. You don't get to keep her." I screamed for Tom, and within seconds he burst into the room with his flashlight and gun drawn. But when he shined the light toward the window, there was nothing there, just a single muddy handprint smeared across the glass. Tom searched outside, but he found no one. No footprints this time, no trace. It was as if the earth had swallowed him again. I held Lily as she sobbed, whispering that everything would be okay, though I didn't believe it myself. Tom came back in, shaking his head. "There's no way anyone was out there," he said. "The ground's dry, no mud anywhere." I looked down at the window, my blood turning to ice. The handprint was still wet. Whatever was haunting us, it wasn't just a memory. It was something far worse. That night, I sat on the floor beside Lily's bed, too afraid to close my eyes. Every creak, every gust of wind made me flinch. Tom stayed awake too, pacing the hallway, his gun always within reach. Around 3 a.m., the temperature in the room dropped suddenly, the air thick with something unseen. I could see my own breath in the darkness. Lily stirred in her sleep, whispering again, "He's calling me, Mommy. He wants me to go with him." My heart shattered. I shook her gently, trying to wake her, but she just kept murmuring, her little fingers tightening around her blanket. Then, from the corner of the room, I heard Ida faint humming sound, a melody. It was the same tune Mark used to hum when he thought I was too scared to fight back. My blood went cold. I turned slowly toward the sound, and there he was, crouched in the corner, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark. His voice was a rasping whisper. "You can't keep her from me. She's part of me." My scream tore through the room as Tom rushed in, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. For a split second, Mark's face was illuminated gray skin, hollow eyes, and a twisted grin, and then, like smoke, he vanished. The air snapped back to normal. Lily woke up crying, her drawings scattered across the floor. Tom gathered us in his arms, his voice trembling for the first time. "We're leaving, now." We didn't pack, we didn't look back. We drove until sunrise, until the town disappeared behind us. Days later, I found myself staring at the waves on a quiet beach, the ocean endless and calm. Lily was playing nearby, her laughter echoing softly. For the first time in months, I felt warmth again. I had no idea if what we saw was real, if Mark's ghost had truly followed us, or if trauma had twisted my mind into something I couldn't control. But as Lily handed me a new drawing, a bright sun, a smiling woman, and a little girl holding hands, I realized something. The past had already taken enough from me. It didn't deserve our future, too. I held her close and whispered, "He can't hurt us anymore." And for the first time, I almost believed it.